Hello again, everyone, and we are at day 50. 50 of 90 of stepping into 2020 on the right foot.
That's awesome.
Is that the right slogan this time? Not going to get on to me?
No, it's good.
Okay. Even though it's still just my slogan.
Okay.
So, on day 50, it was a good day. I actually had the opportunity today to share with someone specifically about what we're doing here at the channel with Broken to Beautifully Blended about encouraging blended families. It's a lady that works where we were doing some work this week, and we had a chance to chat, and we got to talking about families, and she said, yeah, I've got 5 kids. I was like, oh, I've got 5 kids too. And she's like, yeah, we're a blended family. And I said, so are we. So I shared with her what we were up to with the channel and encouraging blended families, and she's like, wow, that's great because that's so hard. I didn't think it was going to be this hard. And so we chatted a little bit more. And so I'm hoping that she's watching, and I hope that she'll continue to watch and be encouraged as we share a little bit about who we are and the things that we experience. So it was interesting. This is the first opportunity I've had to really say, hey, look, this is specifically for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that encouraging for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you say it like that?
Is it not supposed to be?
No, I just want to know if it's encouraging.
Well, yeah, I think that's what I said. Is that what I said?
I don't know. I think that it is a lot like what we listened to on Sunday, where whenever, like she said, she didn't know it was going to be this hard. Mm-hmm. So, he gave the illustration that he asked the girl that was engaged if she said yes, and she said yes, and he said, you have no idea what you said yes to.
And it was funny because all the married people in the room laughed.
Exactly. And then he started talking about whenever all the difficult times happen, and you got to say yes to the second yes. And being in a blended family means that you said yes one time, and then for whatever reason it didn't work out, and then you met your person, and again you said yes, thinking, I've been through this, I know what this is all about, I got this, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And then you get into it and you go, what is going on?
Yeah.
And again, you have to choose to say yes.
Yeah. And, you're right, because you think you know all the pitfalls. You think you go, okay, I've been through this, I've got it all figured out. But then it's new stuff all the time. The lady I was talking to today said that, shortly after she got married the second time, she got hit with a custody battle on both sides. She said it was the craziest thing. I was like, I can't even imagine having to do that. But, it doesn't stop. It's not like you get through phase 1, and then all of a sudden your blended family's in perfect shape. It doesn't stop. It seems to be a constant thing. It's always a back and forth between your blended family and those people that are outside your blended family that are still a part of your blended family. But maybe you don't want them to be. Maybe you do want them to be. Sometimes you certainly don't want them to be. And sometimes it's all, there are so many dynamics in play.
So many times whenever it would be easier just to go, nope, not today.
I'm going to take my sandbox and go home. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the way that goes.
Well, stepping out, starting. We make up our own sayings here.
We make up our own sayings. You know that the brightest minds in the world make up their own sayings.
Okay. Did you just make that up?
Yeah. And 73% of statistics on the internet are made up, too.
I'm pretty sure it's 87%.
It might be. But then again, who's counting?
There's somebody counting.
Somebody somewhere. Somebody knows the answer to that question. How many of the statistics, what is the percentage of statistics on the internet that are actually made up?
A lot.
I don't know. But we're on day 15 of the Draw the Circle Challenge. Contend for me. Contend for me, my God and Lord. Psalm 35:23. I looked that up today. because I wanted to sort of see the context around it. And it's great. I mean, the NIV uses the word contend. And so David is saying that I have so much opposition, Lord. Fight for me. We don't often stop and just say, God, fight for me.
Yeah. And usually whenever we do, we're really in a jam.
Yeah, and the first two sentences in today's study is God loves it when we fight for him, but God loves it even more when we let him fight for us. So, what does that look like?
Well, it looks like praying circles around the things that you feel like are impossible. It means figuring out what your Jericho is and walking the circles, whether you look crazy or not.
Mm-hmm. You know, when the Israelites were marching around Jericho, they marched around 6 days without making a sound. And then on the seventh day, they marched around 7 times without making a sound. And then whenever Joshua gave the word, they blew the trumpets and they shouted and the walls fell down.
Yeah.
And see, I've heard the illustration before. Can you imagine being one of the Israelite soldiers? Get ready, we're going to battle. Okay, but when we get there, I want you guys to just walk, or don't make a sound. We're just going to walk around. And then you go back home, and you know your wife's at home, and she's like, "How was the battle today?" And you're like, "We didn't do anything. We just walked in a circle." And then, but we're going to go back tomorrow. You get up the next day, you go back, you walk around the city, you don't make a sound, nothing happens. You go back home, and your wife was like, "Hey, I bet the battle was great today. Did you kill a lot of people?" And he's like, "No, we walked around, didn't make a sound." Can you imagine the frustration?
Well, I'm thinking about men. I don't know. I think that it would take men until like day 5 or 6 to be like, what are we doing here? Because I know men that can just walk and not talk to anybody. Like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're just going to do it. Because, you're the provider and protector and you just get in, you just do it. But it would be not until, like day 5 or 6 of somebody harping at you. Well, that's how you're going to get to overtake it. And then
but they didn't really. Joshua didn't lay out the plan for all of them, So
no, but I'm saying just walking around one time. That's what you're going to do. That doesn't seem like that's a very good idea.
Well, from a man's perspective, when we're getting ready to go into something like that, I can think of, maybe before you play a football game or some sort of athletic event, or maybe you're going to go, tear down a house or something that's, manly. You're like, you're amped up before you go, and the adrenaline's pumping and your body's going, and you're just like, oh.
I can see that.
So,
yeah.
I can imagine, but
I'm just thinking if there was a woman there, she'd be like, seriously, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why?
That's true.
Should we go counterclockwise?
Yeah.
Should we try this a different way?
Yeah. And, they didn't see anything happen. It's not like they walked around on day 5, and some bricks started to crumble and cracks form and stuff. Nothing happened. And yet they continued to circle, and they followed what God told them to do. And when they did it to completion, which the number 7 represents completion in the Bible, when they did it to completion, the walls fell. They went in and conquered the city. So it's like that. That's what I think letting God fight for us does. Mm-hmm. That was a good point. I didn't think about that. Way to go. The word contend, it's two-dimensional. It refers to both physical combat and verbal combat. I like the word contend. I think of boxing or UFC, the number 1 contender. This person's worked their way up. They're the biggest match for the person that's the champion. They got to go fight for it. I like the word contend.
You're going to have to put the picture of you with Holyfield sitting behind you. From the MGM Grand where you're...
Oh, yeah. I wasn't going to contend with that guy. But talks a little bit more about the way that God works in the Old Testament. It talks about the New Testament, that we have two intercessors, the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ, that they're interceding on our behalf with God the Father. Mm-hmm. And so it says that we're double circled, and they're circling us all the time with songs of deliverance. And he uses an example in here of not responding to every criticism that comes your way. That's a tough one. And especially if you take somebody like the high-profile pastor, Mark Batterson, Stephen Furtick, Craig Groeschel, Robert Morris, Francis Chan. There's a whole litany of them. Their critics are many. Mm-hmm. And they have developed a discipline, or at least most of them have. Some of them still sort of struggle with it, but they have developed the ability to just not let these critics come at them. Professional athletes, same way. Radio hosts, TV hosts, same way. You learn to let that stuff sort of it has to come off your shoulders, because you can't respond to every one of them.
They have to be ducks.
Yeah. So what he said...
I'm going to explain that before he moves on. So to be a duck, you have to let it just roll off your back, and you can just glide across the water, or it appears, but underneath you're going 1,000 miles a minute. So you don't let it bother you. It's just smooth sailing.
And that's because ultimately what the goal is to let God handle it for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can respond to criticism, we can respond to ways that we feel that we're slighted. And that's sort of where that calm on the water and frantic underneath comes into play. Mm-hmm. Because we can sort of be frustrated about it. We can be irritated about it. But when we honestly say, God, I want you to take this, I'll let you fight for me, then we can be calm. And when you see a duck sitting, that's the time whenever they're not being frantic. They're just letting the current take them where they are and being calm in the moment. So mm-hmm. It was interesting. He said he made a determination that he wasn't going to defend himself. And then he said, I'm called to play offense, not defense. God is my defender, and I believe he is contending for me if my cause is just and my heart is right. So again, it's not just anything. It has to do with what aligns with God's will in my life, in your life. It has to be, again, it goes back to the whole thing is God's not a genie.
Yeah, and it plays into what you talked about yesterday, that where it says the gates of Hades will not prevail, that's a defensive mechanism. Mm-hmm. And so like you said, you've got to be on the offense. You've got to be actively engaged in seeking God and his will. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're prey.
The last part of that section says, there are some battlefields I'm willing to die on, but there are some I'm not willing to die on. I won't engage in the combat of criticism. It's sideways energy, and it doesn't have a redemptive purpose. I overlook the offense so I can keep playing offense.
I think in a blended family that is so difficult, because going through, just the act of going through a divorce is so destructive. And most typically through the divorce process, it's like you're willing to die on every battlefield. Mm-hmm. And then you have to learn again that this is not a battlefield worth dying on. Mm-hmm. I need to get back control of my mind and my emotions.
Yeah, and if there's children involved, then you got to really be able to pack those things away and move on. Mm-hmm. So he talks about the first official prayer with the Continental Congress and what that looked like for the beginning of our country. I would say that the forefathers had it right. They had their hearts and thoughts and minds in the right place with how they founded our country. You can make the argument one way or another. Are we a Christian country? Are we not a Christian country? I don't know that that's necessarily the debate. I think that just to look back and say that our founding forefathers started on the right foot is what has given America such a unique position in the world. Mm-hmm. So, and then he says, our prayers don't have expiration dates, which I think is very cool. I think that there are things that are happening right now that my mother prayed for whenever I was in high school. I mean, there are things that I know that she prayed for that I certainly thought was goofy at the time. But, I mean, it sort of comes around. And there are things that we're praying for now that I would hope that our children step into as they grow and mature.
Mm-hmm. But man, is the waiting hard.
If you're on God's side, then God is on your side. God will fight for you as you fight for him. That is a comforting statement. I mean, mm-hmm. And as I continue to grow, as I continue to walk down the path of following Jesus and the things that we do, I see that more and more. Okay. Prayer is the difference between you fighting for God and God fighting for you. So, remember to let God contend for us. Let him contend for you. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting.
Tomorrow is Lord Surprise Me.
Is that like Lord Surprise Me or Lord Surprise Me?
Well, the comma is after Lord. Grammar is important.
Remember, commas save lives.
Yep.
Let's eat dinner, Grandma. Or what is it? How's it go? I'm going to put you on the spot because we're going to blow it now.
Let's eat.
Let's eat.
I don't remember.
We blew it. Good memories save lives too. So, but anyway, yeah. Lord Surprise Me. It's coming up tomorrow, day 16. All right, it's the 20th day of November. We are now 1 week and 1 day. Well,
this time next week we'll be in Arkansas.
Yeah. So we won't be able to take all of our studio with us.
That's okay.
We'll have to go back to doing them on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Back when it didn't take me an hour to get them put together on the internets.
Mm-hmm.
Or the interwebs, excuse me. So, anyway, speaking of that, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful for the ability to go and be with family. There are plenty of people in this world and in our community, people that we know that don't have good relationships with their extended family. And when you talk to them about holidays and stuff, they're like, well, we're just going to be at the house. Mm-hmm. And, I wish it was different for them. I'm thankful that our family on both sides, we're all close and we're able to go and have good times. And we might not agree with every single thing, but we are close, and it is important to get together for holidays and important family events. And so I'm thankful for extended family.
I'm thankful that we may not always agree, but yet we still show up for each other. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful for that. Because we have a lot of personalities.
And they're all a far second to mine. So, I'm just playing. Don't take offense to that, anybody.
Okay, so day 50.
Day 50, I'm still blown away. 50, that's like a big deal. I mean, like, you have like the 50th show or the 50th anniversary or the 50th birthday, whatever the case may be.
I'll be your mom's age whenever we have our 50th anniversary.
Okay.
And you'll be 2 years older than your dad.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Interesting. I wonder what it'll look like then.
I don't know. It depends how we take care of ourselves. And I still have like 1 minute left for closing my rings. How about you?
My rings aren't getting closed today. It was rainy. Anyway, all right. You guys have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, day 51.